Mayor Rahm Emanuel reminding the crowd here that change did happen under the watch of President Barack Obama. Mayor Emanuel joins us now live here in Charlotte, along with my colleague Mike Flannery, political analyst. We, of course, listen to every word. Honestly, of course, and people in Chicago did too. One thing I wondered, you said the president read 10 letters from ordinary Americans every night.
Every night before he went home, we would meet in our wrap-up session, and he wanted to make sure in the folder going back to the residents were 10 letters that were selected by average Americans. I mean, obviously a president gets thousands of them, millions. And there were 10 selected randomly that gave him a flavor of what people were, they were just writing to him so they would hear.
I want to know, do you do that with 10 ordinary Chicagoans letters?
Well, you know, first of all, yeah, I mean, one of the things I try to do is I stay in touch. I ride the L. This weekend I was at the Target on 33rd Street, what I call it, my Target Town Hall. I just walked the aisles. I was meeting parents who were buying things as got back to school supplies. And I think it's very, very important. It's one of the things I've learned from the president, but also from President Clinton and what I did in Congress. You can get pretty isolated pretty quickly in these offices, and I do different things to make sure I stay in touch. I call them my Target Town Halls. I was at 33rd Street, that Target there, and Damon, and I was just talking to people in the aisles, and I'm talking about their schools and what they're facing.
Speaking of schools, I'm sure that Mr. Flannery has a question about that.
Well,
It's so bad, our cuts and Fox so bad, you have to share a microphone.
sharing a microphone, that's the truth, yeah. But I ran into Reverend Jesse Jackson out in the hall a few minutes ago. He told me he thinks that you and the Teachers Union are closer together than the rhetoric indicates. Is that true?
Look, I think good progress has been made throughout the weekend and also in the conversations that were held today as well as yesterday. And I think as long as people stay at the table negotiating, that's where the conversation should be.
You're headed back there tomorrow night?
And I think, yes, but also, I was at classrooms today, and that's where kids belong. Kids belong in the classroom. Negotiators at the table, kids belong in the classroom with the teacher. I saw them at Shields, I saw them at UNO, I saw them at the new IBM STEM High School.
Chicago's big heat here, Mr. Mayor, but in Tampa last week, the Republicans, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that Barack Obama's a ward-healing hack Chicago pal, I'd probably be able to buy a hot dog here. What's your reaction when you hear that?
You know, they are so retro, it's unbelievable. It is like a black and white movie in the sense they have only a past and they want to take the country back in the past. This president has moved the country forward. All the policies they have to offer are ones that actually gave us the worst economic recession, the worst financial meltdown, the collapse of the auto industry, and we can't afford to go back. And
What's it like to address this crowd? Would you like to run for president?
Never. Served two great presidents. I love being mayor.
He just said never, but you're supposed to never say never.
I said it.
You were here from the beginning, which is one of the reasons they had you here. You're a veteran. Not quite the same sparkle and energy as 4 years ago, is it?
Oh, I don't agree with that. I think there's, it's obviously a re-elect's different than the first time he got elected. But I think that I know this for a fact, that while you have a re-election, this is a clear choice for the country between two different men with two different policies. It couldn't be more stark.
We'll see which one gets chosen. Thank you so much, Mayor Rahm Emanuel, for joining us.
I know you got a busy night.
Yeah, and we also had the other Chicagoans who are represented very well here tonight. Tammy Duckworth, Governor Quinn. I don't know if he might not be a Chicagoan, but he's certainly an Illinoisan.
Well, yes, he's a West Sider. And Tammy Duckworth's speech was absolutely one of the emotional highlights. We're going to tell you more about that later.
When we come back.
We have to go.
Bob, back to you.
And if we get the mayor back with you, we'll get him his own microphone so he doesn't complain. Thanks, Robin and Mike there in North Carolina.
He'll have to pay for it.
And after that reception, the mayor says he's going to fly home to join those school talks.
I think that's a good idea because a possible school strike affects a lot more people than the outcome here, which is predicted. We know who the nominee is going to be. And again, the venue's been changed for tomorrow. It's going to be right here. They got a crowd problem tonight. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Bob, back to you. We'll come back later with more of my interview with Valerie Jarrett. Now, Valerie Jarrett is widely seen. A lot of people say she's almost the surrogate president, that her influence is so strong. She, however, deflects that. When you ask her about the power and influence that she wields in the Obama White House, she quickly turns the answer into an explanation about the powerful process the president goes through in his decision-making. Your position is described really as second in power only to the president in the White House. Is that a fair assessment?
I think the president is surrounded by a terrific team. He brings out the best in everyone. We work together as a team. There is no one person who I think he listens to any more than anyone else, because ultimately he makes his own decisions.
Maybe the reason people focus so much on how much power or how much of the president's ear Valerie Jarrett has is because it's kind of unusual for a woman to have that kind of power, maybe not since Eleanor Roosevelt.
Well, it is unusual, but part of what I think has drawn so many people to the president is that he has surrounded himself with a diverse team that really reflects the rich diversity of our country.
There she is again, downplaying the historic role she's playing and calling it the president's historic decision. They are close friends as well as partners in this process of running the country. You are looking at the president and Mrs. Obama attending Valerie Jarrett's daughter's wedding. These people do definitely, they go on vacation together. She's kind of called the first friend in many cases. Valerie Jarrett, though, working extra hard to get her close friend and boss reelected this year. Mike Flannery joins me now. Were you surprised that she is still so hands-on after so much has been written about, the power, good and bad, of her influence in the White House?
She is a master, or a mistress, perhaps we should say. She's very much a woman of the of staying away from controversial things. Luis Gutierrez, one of the Chicagoans tomorrow. We are going to be hearing from Senator Dick Durbin, as well as, of course, Barack Obama.
That's true, and they seem to be more on the attack mode in today's speeches. Let's see what former President Bill Clinton, what tone he takes. He'll be coming up in just a few minutes. Bob, back to you. Good morning. They don't just wrap up tonight. They've been ramping up all week long. Streets that were open yesterday are closed today because everybody is here. The president has arrived yesterday. He came in anticipation of his big speech tonight. Bill Clinton was here last night and really wowed the crowd. You've heard me describe this as kind of a revival, kind of like your church revival. The Democrats trying to infuse the religion of winning in November to all of their members. And they even had a minister on stage last night. And then, of course, Bill Clinton, who kind of preached the gospel according to Clinton and really embraced Barack Obama. Literally, after the speech, the two of them up on stage together. The president not speaking yet, of course, because that's not traditional until he gets the nomination. Bill Clinton actually putting his name into nomination, the first time that a former president has done that for a candidate for re-election or in any other way. But Bill Clinton basically told the crowd, I know you think I'm smart and that I was presided over prosperity, but even I could not have done what Barack Obama did. He really prevented this country from going into economic collapse.
No president, not me, not any of my predecessors, no one could have fully repaired all the damage that he found in just 4 years.
And there you hear the prevailing theme of the convention. It was a big mess. The Republicans made the mess. Don't put them back in office just because we have failed to clean the mess up entirely within 4 years. You can expect President Obama to expand on that theme tonight at his big address. A lot of people worried that he won't be able to live up to what Bill Clinton did last night, but those who know him best, Bill Daley for one, Valerie Jarrett said, I don't think that they have to worry about him being second to anyone in the speech-making department and been able to connect with an audience. Now, everybody remembers, in fact, some people say it's a shame that the most memorable moment from the Republican National Convention was the Clint Eastwood moment, the star power, him talking to the empty chair. Some people describe it as a bizarre moment. And as you know, the Democrats are more known for their kind of Hollywood support, and that's not really been much in evidence that was actually criticized 4 years ago. So maybe they've kind of backed off of the George Clooney's and the big stars that, that were really on board and visible 4 years ago. But we understand that tonight we will have an appearance by three Hollywood starlets. I hope that's not a negative word. Scarlett Johansson, Kerry Washington, and Natalie Portman. Rather a contrast, I think, to the image of Clint Eastwood, and I think they intend to make that contrast as, a party of old pale men versus these young, hip, and diverse actresses, and quite pretty, by the way, that will be, we don't know what they'll be saying, but they will be addressing, we understand, the delegates here that will be gathered here tonight. Everybody is so excited, but of course there are thousands of people who won't be able to make it because they were planning to go to the stadium where the address originally was planned for outside. That canceled, according to the campaign, because of the potential of severe weather. But we'll be here inside, a little more comfortable, but not as many people. Back to you, Corey and Anna.
All right, Robin, thank you very much. I wonder if they'll pull out a chair tonight as part of the
I
routine.
think they're going to stay away from all
think
that.
maybe
I don't know.
We'll see what happens. Robin, thanks.
I think they would leave that one alone.
Yeah.
Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Anna. Good morning, Corey. Listen, if the goal is to wake up every morning of this convention and have everybody talking about the big speech from the night before, then Democrats are really batting 1,000, because first you had Michelle Obama on Tuesday night, which people on both sides of the aisle were calling one of the best speeches they'd ever heard at any convention anywhere. And then you had former President Bill Clinton here last night, one of the most popular figures in Democratic modern history, whose popularity ratings are like 66% compared to 39% when he first left office, apparently in hindsight. hindsight, he's looking really, really good to us when we look at some of the years of prosperity that were under the Bill Clinton's leadership. Whether he was responsible for it all or not, it certainly is. They are fond memories, and he tried to share some of that popularity with Barack Obama, wholeheartedly endorsing him and giving a lot of facts and figures and attacking a lot of the Republican planks of their platform. But he did not just, he had a lot of detail, but he also had a lot of emotion. A lot of people said that Bill Clinton absolutely took this entire arena to church last night.
Are we where we want to be today? No. Is the president satisfied? Of course not. But are we better off than we were when he took office?
Firing up the folks who have to leave here and fire up the voters in their home states. Those who've been with Barack Obama for this entire journey don't accept the notion that the campaign suffers from lower enthusiasm than last time, though you have to admit that the historic election of the nation's first African-American president is a moment in time that can never exactly be repeated. The goal now is to continue what the people consider to be the historic work. Going in the right direction is the theme, is to tell the American public that it's not perfect, but it certainly is going the right way. Now, the person who's been at the president's side for most of that journey, more of that journey than anyone else, perhaps, maybe than his, maybe with the exception of First Lady Michelle Obama, is Valerie Jarrett. She's his senior advisor, implementing their shared vision, and right now campaigning for the chance to continue their work to get reelected is by all accounts something she's a master at, but Ms. Jarrett told me that comes at a price for her.
I am always homesick, always. That's why when I was down on the floor yesterday and I walked through the Illinois delegation, I choked up.
Did you really?
I did. It was just great to see so many familiar faces that I've known for a long time, long before any of this.
Well, speaking of long before any of this, you really kind of cut your political chops or earned your political stripes first in Chicago City Hall. Now that you're a four-star general in politics and policy, do you see any relation from one to the other?
Oh, I learned so much working for local government. I always felt at the local level that there were all these federal programs and we had to try to tailor our needs to meet their requirements, as opposed to how about the federal government work for the American people? And that's what we've been trying to do since the president has been in office. So my learning curve in Chicago helped me enormously.
Valerie Jarrett has been working this convention circuit. All boots are on the ground in the Obama campaign right now. I ran into Craig Robinson this morning, who's, of course, the first brother-in-law. He's Michelle Obama's brother. He was on his way to a Maryland delegation breakfast. He had just made the rounds of a couple of television morning talk shows. So everyone is working right now to try to get the message out, get the party faithful fired up to go out and do what they need to do to get re-election, because it is not a given. It's a very close race for an incumbent in particular, and most people blame that on the economy, which is why they think the Bill Clinton connection and that wholehearted endorsement by a very popular former president is going to help make a difference. And Barack Obama tonight is not expected to go into that kind of detail about policy. It's going to be more of a showing who he is and the kind of man he is, and to try to convince the American people that it's the kind of man they want in the White House. And again, the big news has been about the change of venue, but that won't affect the millions of people who are expected to be watching his speech tonight.
No, not at all. Well, Robin, thanks for your reporting. Look forward to seeing you again tonight at 9 o'clock. We'll see you then.
Okay.
We'll let Robert Robinson and Mike Flannery have one more thing tonight. Let's go back to the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte. Robin, Mike?
If you have one more thing from here, Bob, it's got to be a speech, because I don't think I've ever heard so many speeches in my life. Mike Flannery, you've been to a lot of conventions, but I'm betting most Americans have never been to a political convention, wouldn't you say?
I think you're absolutely right. I do think, Robin, that in terms of recreating the magic of 2008, which is what they wanted to do here, they did fall short. I still think there was a level of intensity that may well have been greater than we saw at the Republican convention last week, but it was certainly nothing like Denver in 08.
I don't believe you can ever recreate that. It was historic. He was the underdog. He was a never been done before, the first African American to even look like he might take the presidency. All the young people involved, they never said they wanted to recreate it. They said they were moving forward, and I don't think it would be possible. You'd have to actually time travel.
And one of the most memorable moments here was actually the president playing his role as father of two school-age girls.
Father-in-chief.
Yeah, you liked that one too, right?
I did. I mean, it's late. It's 11:30 at night, and the whole family was here. Have a look at what he said.
Malia and Sasha, we are so proud of you. And yes, you do have to go to school in the morning.
It is the look on the young one's face that I think really got the crowd going. But think about what changes. The whole family runs for office these days. Back at, before 1932, the candidates didn't even show up to the conventions because it was considered to be too aggressive.
Right.
That you didn't want to. It was just not proper. FDR changed that in Chicago, and it showed up.
And now those little girls, Mitt Romney's 5 kids and grandkids, are all part of the process. The other thing that was striking to me about this convention, this is the first one that I've been to where a president of the United States is from Illinois. Those members, those Illinois Democrats, we had some pictures of them.
We had a prestigious spot. We did all the Illinois delegation.
Everything right up front. It was just remarkable in all the shots. When Mayor Emanuel was here the other night, the camera kept cutting away to him. Governor Quinn got lots of cutaway shots.
Mike Flannery and I walking down the hallway saying, yes, we're from Chicago. Yeah, we're from Chicago. Have you heard of us? We're from Chicago.
Yeah, you want to buy us a drink? We're from Chicago. And people asking, well, is he really a Chicago ward hack politician?
Opponents
journalists asking
they do try to turn that to his disadvantage.
Right. And, it was interesting, of course, the land of Lincoln. The president invoked Abraham Lincoln. Dick Durbin invoked by name Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln was a Republican.
He was, even at the breakfast this morning, Robin. At the
There's a striking resemblance.
There was, everybody got one of these.
Wow.
They knew well that the president would be invoking the great emancipator.
And he did. And what he say? He said that like Abe Lincoln, he many times found himself on his knees because he was sure there was no place else to go. And
your favorite line?
That was close, but I think I liked Bill Clinton when he said, in terms of the Democrats want to build the economy from the middle. It's been all about the ordinary citizen versus the fat cats. Not so much a class war, but just a different way of doing things. And Bill Clinton said, we're not going to do it their way. We're not going to double down on the trickle down. And I kind of like that as a line.
I'm a Lincoln buff. I love the president quoting Lincoln. I also loved, Bill Clinton quoting, though not by name, Ronald Reagan, another Republican, when he referred to the Republicans, mocking them, saying, there they go again, paraphrasing Ronald Reagan without quoting him by name.
Well, our producer's talking to us. We're going long. There we go again. We apologize. We've had a great time here, and it's been very interesting, very informative as the Democrats have gathered for their convention to get ready for November. And in the short term, they're getting ready for the first debate, October 3rd in Denver, between the presidential candidates. From Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm Robin Robinson, along with Mike Flannery. Back to you, Bob, in the studio.
And before we let you go on television, it seemed like the most emotional moment of the night was when Gabby Giffords from Arizona gave the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that what your sense of it was?
Absolutely, Bob. She came out with her close friend, the Democratic chairman, the national chairman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Actually, many people don't know it, but Rahm Emanuel, when he was the head of the DCCC in Congress, he helped to recruit her as well. He's been on the phone, and in fact, her husband, the astronaut, Mr. Kelly, was out in the hallway here a few minutes ago with Giffords. So it's good that she's still able to stay out this late.
That's true, and it's everyone's listening to see, well, how does she sound? Because she had the brain injury, and what I'd have to say is the only word she seemed to have a problem with is a word that gives us all a problem in the Pledge of Allegiance, indivisible, whatever. You know what I mean? So, and anyway, that was an emotional moment. I like the veterans video as well, though. I thought that was a good moment. So, Bob, back to you in the studio.
All right, good night. Pressure mounts on the mayor as he urges teachers to get back to work.
Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney is in our town tonight. He's attending a fundraiser in Lake Forest, so he's in our area. The Romney campaign is hoping to pull in $3 million at the event as that battle heats up between him and President Barack Obama. Now, before the GOP nominee arrived in our area, he said something that got the attention of everybody here at Chicago Public School headquarters. He criticized Chicago teachers for going on strike. His running mate, Paul Ryan, went even further. He said the Republican ticket stands with Mayor Emanuel. Well, not if Rahm Emanuel can help it. The staunch Democrat had a strong reaction to the GOP support in this high-stakes standoff. Political editor Mike Flannery is in our newsroom with more on the political fallout from the Chicago teacher strike. Mike.
We have two big stories to cover. First, the teachers' strike. Good evening, I'm Bob Surratt.
And I'm Robin Robinson. Negotiations are at a stalemate tonight. Both sides still trying to come to an agreement in this. We have team coverage of today's developments. Lisa Chavarria is live outside the downtown Hilton. That's where both sides are still at least negotiating. Mike Flannery reports on how the strike's playing out in the national spotlight. First, though, a developing story. This one involves a missing CPS student. As negotiations continued, a mother worried for her 12-year-old child who was vanished from a site that was designed to help keep kids safe during this strike, one of those children first sites. Darlene Hill joins us now with new details. Darlene. So maybe the whole world is not watching this strike in Chicago, but it is making headlines all across the country. Our political editor, Mike Flannery, picks up our coverage in the newsroom. Mike, really the root causes of the walkout here are at issue in most other big school districts, aren't they?
That's exactly right, Robin. You know, both sides here are preparing for a potentially long strike they have in mind, Robin.
Mike, no fear that they would lose the public support in this kind of politicizing of this issue?
It's a risky thing to do, but this is, they view this, just as many around the country view it, as a central battle over the future of public education in America.
All right, both sides do. Thank you very much, Mike Flannery. And our coverage of the Chicago teacher strike continues. Unfortunately, as long as the strike continues, they'll be on Fox Chicago here as well as online all the time. We've posted input from aldermen in your neighborhood as well on our website, myfoxchicago.com. And we'll have an update on the negotiations later in this newscast. And you can watch Good Day Chicago starting at 4:30 in the morning for breaking strike news from overnight. And the iPhone 5 overall, this is the important part, costs $199. That's with a 2-year wireless contract through AT&T, Verizon, or Sprint. Here are some of your thoughts online. Jerry is getting one. She says, I can't wait. Kanisha says, once all the kinks are out of the iPhone 5, Mama will be upgrading. Rich says, cannot wait to get something Apple says I cannot live without. From Nichelle, buy one for what? I'm sure they will have another one in a week or two. Kevin says, I'm buying the Galaxy S3. iPhone is just a gimmick. Julia says, who can afford it? Lest you have not heard, people are broke. And from Jerry, I'm behind by 4 iPhones. So he doesn't run and get one every time. All I can say is another row of icons. I can't even use the icons that are on my phone. Currently don't know what half of them mean. I'm not worried about the new docking thing, though, because I lose a charge about every once a month anyway. So
David Pogue, the New York Times technology writer, wrote on his site that there's going to be a lot of grumpiness in iPhone land, starting with me, he says, because you have to buy that adapter for $30. And he says, think of all the charging cables, docks, chargers, car adapters, hotel room, alarm clocks, speakers, and accessories, hundreds of millions of gadgets that will no longer fit the iPhone.
The hotel rooms would be a particular problem. But I don't use iPhone anyway.
You got an iPad?
Crackberry.
Oh, yeah. You know, the iPad is getting...
I do have a pad, yes.
This year will be getting a little bit smaller, so the iPhone's getting larger. And
the iPad's getting smaller. Pretty soon you won't know which one you're grabbing.
Yeah, go back to the Walkman. Sure. Up next.
A follow-up tonight to our investigation of human trafficking in Chicago. It revealed that most sex workers are forced into the life as teenagers or even children. A new task force here is turning up the heat on pimps and traffickers, but those already abused by the sex trade have a long road to recover their stolen innocence.
Hey, sweetie, can I speak to you for 1 second? We help ladies get out of the lifestyle.
Several nights a week, Brenda Myers-Powell is driving in a van up and down Chicago streets known as the Tracks or the Stroll, places where customers or Johns know they can find all kinds of sex for a price.
It depends on people coming through with money. People get paid around the weekend. There's more traffic out.
She's looking for the sex worker who's looking for a way out. Some she's been talking to for years.
She's a beautiful person and she believes in, helping us.
How old were you when you came out here to the life? 16.
Who am I to tell her what to do? What we want to let them know is that when you do decide to, that you want some help, we'll be here.
For the Dreamcatcher Foundation, Brenda and her volunteers venture into places most people won't.
She got a pimp too, so watch my back, all right?
Many of the girls don't want to be seen talking to her.
That's how I used to be when I was out there. You couldn't come up and you couldn't approach me. I got some condoms if you need some.
That's right. Brenda used to work these streets. Outsiders, she says, will never know how hard it is to escape. Most sex workers are forced into the life between the ages of 12 and 16, taught to love and fear their trafficker through an elaborate process akin to brainwashing.
I had to look down on the ground. I couldn't give men eye contact because he said that I was trying to choose men, or that, I wasn't supposed to look a man in the eye.
Patricia was prostituted from the age of 12. She says there was no thought of cooperating with authorities.
I was taught that the police were bad. The police will take you to jail. The police are not going to help.
And once you get a record for prostitution, how else can you make money?
In order to get your first hotel room, or because you didn't have a place to stay, or your first meal, you had to go back and prostitute.
It's a trap that advocates against sex trafficking are trying to fix. Illinois has a new law to help former sex workers vacate their past convictions so they can get legitimate work. But first, they face even harder work.
They have to learn to love themselves again when their bodies have been battlegrounds for so long. So the recovery process is, I think, one of the hardest things that we would ever ask someone to go through, but the most important.
And for a young lady, as you just saw, to walk down the street at this time of night, all alone by herself, hoping to get picked up, what do you think is going on in the inside of her? Nothing good. Nothing good.
And my self-esteem was really low. The drug abuse was really heavy. I felt like I was unworthy to be loved.
Patricia says Brenda and the Dream Catchers helped end her nightmare.
I was tired of going to jail. I was tired of the life that I was living. I just wanted what she had. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be a survivor.
More than a survivor, Brenda has become a warrior on these streets, fighting to deliver a message to victims like Patricia.
I can still be beautiful, and I can still be respected and understood, and I can adjust my life to live a better life, to live a real life.
The Dream Catchers Foundation is one of several resources for sex workers trying to get out of the life. It's totally supported by private donations. To give or to get help, we've got a link on our website, myfoxchicago.com.
What's the key to rehabilitating someone?
Well, they have so many issues. Usually there is a drug issue because they either have turned to drugs to kind of get numb, or pimps will try to get them hooked to give them further incentive to be out on the street. So you have generally some sort of substance abuse. And then you have the whole self-esteem bit, because usually these were throwaway people to begin with. And then to have had this kind of feeling like damaged goods. It's a process that the normal shelter can't really handle, but the Salvation Army and the Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation even the FBI will relocate a victim of sex trafficking if necessary. So there are resources out there that weren't there even 10 years ago.
But in the rehab, you have to deal with multiple problems,
multiple
don't you?
real issues. Veteran White Sox pitcher Jake Peavy is having a great season, but what he does on the mound is just part of what makes him a star. Having been through some really tough times himself, Peavy is offering up the chance of a lifetime for some lucky fans, helping him to help others.
Music's a great out for us, and like you said, we spend a lot of time at the field, and we do. I can't believe I'm about to play this guitar on camera.
But
Come on,
play this guitar on camera.
I'm gonna do it. Let's do it.
Just a little camera shy when it comes to this talent, even though Jake Peavy is a veteran who performs before thousands. That's a different pitch. Music is a more private passion, one he shares on the road with his teammates.
Some of the funnest nights, though, I can remember playing that and Alexi being in the room and Ramon Castro being in the room, and them just making up their own words to La Bamba and or whatever it may be. What I truly love about is music brings everybody together.
And some lucky fans will get to share some of the fun in Peavy's life in a few weeks. He's raffling off an experience money can't buy.
I got a pretty good connection at U.S. Slater Field. Going to get you some good tickets and get to watch us play the Cubs. Get to hang out on the field for batting practice.
Raffle winners will get transportation, hotel rooms, spending money, dinner with Peavy, who will no doubt end up on the guitar.
Yeah, I wouldn't be the man I am today if not for those I've loved along the way.
The fundraiser is in honor of one of the people Peavy has loved. San Diego Padres pitching coach Darryl Ackerfeld is battling pancreatic cancer. Proceeds from the raffle go toward research.
I want him to know that I'm doing what I can do to fight this thing as well with him, as a brother. You become so close with these guys because you spend more time there at the field than you do even with your own family, and these guys become family.
And with this guy, sometimes total strangers become like family.
Yeah, here we go here. This is him, look. What he put? Hell yeah, I got my knees.
Hell yeah, I got my knees.
Right, yeah.
A young soldier who lost 3 limbs in Afghanistan gets support from the Jake Peavy Foundation's Strike Out for Troops program. He also gets a buddy in the majors.
Nick is a 20-year-old, as a triple amputee, and gave me this bracelet. Him and his father in spring training gave me this bracelet. It has obviously the Semper Fi there. When you watch somebody go through, life-changing. This kid's life will never be the same.
Peavy himself has battled back from a life-changing injury that ended his season in 2010.
And Jake goes down.
Looks like he hurt himself.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously excruciating pain, but I knew something bad had happened, and when something like that happens, you do wonder if you'll ever be able to do what you love and do again.
This season, Jake Peavy's proving he can still do what he loves and do it well. He's in near perfect pitch on and off the field.
See, Rob, it was never about trying to be some big star. Yeah, for me, it's always been about these songs. See, they're my best friends. Got me through some hard times. And when I play, hope it puts a smile on your face.
Oh, it was fun hanging out with him. And you can buy raffle tickets to hang out with Jake Peavy. Go to all 3 Crosstown Classic games at the Cell. Buy them on the piece. Website, myfoxchicago.com. We have a link there for you. And go into how much stuff is offered in the prize package here. It's really, and it's trying to raise $100,000, so let's go.
I couldn't be happier for the guy who, as you said, is having a terrific season.
It's a miracle that Peavy pitched again after that surgery he had to reattach the muscle in his arm.
It's a minor miracle.
It really is.
Yeah, US 99 on the line right now for him. What's that?
And it's a miracle that he's pitching as well as he is right now.
Incredible.
Perfect timing.
Teenagers, whether runaways or throwaways, are finally being counted in Chicago's homeless population. They've been there all along, but young people have a way of masking their situation. We may see them and think they're just kids hanging out, when in fact they're running out of options.
I've slept in abandoned buildings. I've slept in people's houses without them knowing, under their porches. I've slept on people's lawns. I've slept in Lincoln Park.
Sleeping at different people's houses night by night.
What were your options?
Either this or on the street.
This is Belfort House, run by TLP, Teen Living Programs, and Adrian is one of the lucky few to find space here. 24 private rooms in a dorm-like setting on the south side for homeless youth aged 17 to 21. It's the exception to the rule in Chicago, a place geared toward their needs, which are very different from the thousands of adults who are homeless.
Especially abnormal to be homeless at a young age.
Dr. Rosella Barnes runs Belfort House. A recent study found this city needs about 100 more just like it.
On any given night in Chicago, there are 2,000 young people who are homeless.
And there are how many beds that are really geared to young people?
Less than 200.
So that's a 90% service gap.
Indeed.
Startling figures when you consider that the last time the city made a plan to end homelessness about 10 years ago, teenagers were not even mentioned, maybe because homeless teens can be hard to spot.
It's like until I would say no one ever asked my living situation, neither did I tell.
They want to blend in, they want to wear the same clothes, they want to style their hair the same, they want to look normal because they understand there is a stigma when you say homeless.
Some ride the trains all night and find any way necessary to stay clean.
How would you stay clean if you had no place to stay?
Like they use McDonald's restrooms, school restrooms, anywhere that has running water.
They end up on the streets for lots of reasons. Abusive or incapable parents.
We got kicked out on the street. I guess she wasn't paying the rent.
The death of a caregiver, like Adrian's grandmother.
I was living with her, and once she passed away, I didn't have nowhere else where to go.
Often it's their own rebellion.
And my mother couldn't handle it anymore, so she was like, sorry, I love you, but you gotta go.
But one of the most common reasons is family rejection of a kid's sexual orientation.
Especially in the Black and Latino community, because I think our community says something strong, very strong about it's not acceptable, it's not okay, you can't live in my house and be like that.
I had some issues with my sister accepting me as an openly gay person.
In this world, a lot more people are accepting, but there are cases like mine where parents still kick people out for being queer.
The Howard Brown Clinic runs a drop-in center for homeless teens on the north side. Many of the young people here have decided to stop hiding and start advocating.
If people don't have a place to sleep, then how can we make that happen? How can we make housing happen?
But the goal has to be more than housing, more than just a cot and a meal.
It's important that they understand they have to work on building skills while they heal from the trauma so they can be successful.
Oh, so your goal is?
To be a gynecologist.
I like to cook. I like to sing, draw.
I want to be one of those people who graduated in a sense from the program and be able to come back and help others to say, I made it out, you can do it too. You just have to put your best foot forward and keep marching.
I have to thank the courageous young people from TLP, from the Broadway Youth Center, the Night Ministry, for sharing their stories with all of us, and the hardworking counselors and agency folks, the outreach teams that hit the streets at all hours of the night. They could certainly use all of our support, and right now they're gearing up for a major overhaul in the way Chicago tries to end homelessness. To help or to get help, I've put some information on our website. You can go to myfoxchicago.com.